The first light of dawn softly illuminated the peaceful landscape of Greystone Valley, casting a tender glow over a quaint farm at its heart. Once a thriving symbol of success, this farm had seen its better days under the care of Eli Turner, a humble farmer now struggling to maintain his livelihood. For generations, his family had worked this land, but now it scarcely supported his modest needs. With mounting debts and failing crops, Eli teetered on the edge of despair. For years, Eli had battled to keep his farm afloat, relying on a small flock of chickens and a few crops to survive. His once flourishing fields were now overtaken by wild weeds, and the weight of his family's legacy felt increasingly burdensome. His wife had passed away years ago, and the only comfort Eli found was in his daily routine of caring for the land. One crisp spring morning, as Eli went about his usual tasks, something unusual caught his eye at the far end of the field. A faint glimmer in the dew-covered grass piqued his interest. Drawn closer, his boots sinking softly into the earth, Eli discovered an enormous egg, easily 3 times the size of a typical chicken egg. Its shell was a pale, iridescent white with swirling patterns that seemed almost otherworldly. For a moment, Eli thought it might be some kind of prank, but when he touched it, its warmth assured him this was no joke. How could something like this even exist? Eli whispered to himself, his weathered fingers brushing the surface. His first instinct was to be cautious. Could it belong to a dangerous wild creature? Was it safe to move? But his curiosity won out, and with great care, Eli brought the egg back to the farmhouse, placing it in a makeshift nest of straw. He had no idea what might hatch from it, but deep inside, he sensed that this could be the opportunity he'd been waiting for, a chance to change his fortunes. The egg quickly became the centerpiece of Eli's modest home. It rested in a corner of the kitchen, surrounded by straw, radiating a warmth that seemed almost alive. Eli couldn't shake the feeling that it was something extraordinary, though it left him with more questions than answers. His daily routine became centered around checking on the egg, adjusting its heat with an old lamp from the barn, and pondering its mysteries. Could it be an ostrich egg? But that didn't make sense. Ostriches weren't native to the area. Was it some prank by local kids? But how could they have hidden such an egg without him noticing? His curiosity turned into an obsession. At the local feed store, he sought answers from the town's elders and fellow farmers, hoping for an explanation. "Never seen anything like it," one old man said with a shake of his head. "If you're lucky, it might be worth something. If not, well, I keep a rifle handy just in case." Eli chuckled nervously, but the man's words stuck with him. What creature could emerge from such an egg? Was he putting himself in danger by keeping it? One evening, as the sun began to dip below the horizon, Eli heard the crunch of tires on gravel. He looked up to see an unfamiliar truck pulling into his driveway. A tall man in a worn jacket stepped out, his boots heavy against the ground as he made his way toward the farmhouse. "Eli Turner?" the man asked in a low, serious voice. "I'm Dr. Ian Caldwell, a biologist. I hear you've found something unusual." Eli hesitated before nodding. Word traveled quickly in small towns. He led the man inside, where Dr. Caldwell's eyes immediately fixed on the egg. "My God," he whispered, crouching to inspect it. "Do you have any idea what this is?" Eli shook his head. "I was hoping you could tell me." Dr. Caldwell pulled out a small scanner and began examining the egg. "The heat it's emitting, it's abnormal. And look at these markings. They resemble patterns found in ancient fossils." Eli frowned. "Fossils?" The biologist paused, then spoke cautiously. "I'm not saying for sure, but if this egg is what I think it is, it could belong to a creature that's been extinct for millions of years." The gravity of his words hung in the air. Could it be true? Could this egg be the miracle Eli had been hoping for? In the weeks that followed, Eli grew increasingly attached to the egg, spending long hours by its side, talking to it as though it could hear him. Dr. Caldwell visited regularly, running tests and taking notes, though no clear answers came. Then, one morning, as Eli adjusted the heat lamp, he noticed something strange, an almost imperceptible vibration. The egg shifted slightly, and a faint tapping sound emerged from within. Eli's heart raced. "It's happening," Dr. Caldwell said when Eli called him. "The hatching has begun." Eli hardly slept over the following days, sitting by the egg as the tapping grew louder. Finally, late one night, the shell cracked open with a sound like breaking glass. Eli held his breath as a creature unlike anything he had ever seen emerged. Its small, sleek body gleamed, and its large, intelligent eyes blinked up at him. Its tiny frame was covered in soft feathers, and though its claws were delicate, they were undeniably powerful. Dr. Caldwell, who had arrived just in time, stared in disbelief. "This isn't possible," he muttered. "What is it?" Eli whispered, "What is it?" The biologist knelt down, his face filled with awe. "It looks like a dinosaur, maybe a theropod, only smaller, like a bird. I've never seen anything like it." Eli could hardly process the words. A dinosaur? In his kitchen? The hatchling let out a soft chirp, reaching its tiny claws toward the air. Without thinking, Eli extended his hand, and the creature nuzzled it, its warmth seeping into his skin. "It's bonded with you," Dr. Caldwell said quietly. "You were the first thing it saw when it hatched. To it, you're its parent." Eli's heart swelled with a mixture of pride and responsibility. Cradling the fragile creature in his hands, he knew his life had changed forever. The next morning, as sunlight streamed through the kitchen window, the hatchling began to explore. It waddled awkwardly on its small legs, chirping with curiosity as it examined everything around it. Eli smiled at its innocent fascination. Later that afternoon, Dr. Caldwell returned, carrying several cases of equipment. "Eli," he began, his tone serious, "we need to talk. I've sent some data to my colleagues, and their responses have been alarming." Eli frowned. "Alarming how?" Dr. Caldwell showed Eli a series of charts and images. "Based on the structure of the egg and some genetic material I analyzed, this creature, whatever it is, has traits that match those of extinct theropod dinosaurs. But here's the twist. It's not purely prehistoric. There's evidence of genetic manipulation. Someone engineered this creature." Eli's stomach sank. "Engineered? You're saying someone created it?" "I don't know who or why," Dr. Caldwell admitted, "but it explains why the egg ended up on your farm. Whoever created it might have been testing it, or worse, trying to hide it, and now that it's hatched, they might come looking for it." Eli's protective instincts surged. "Nobody's taking this little guy away. He's staying with me." Dr. Caldwell nodded solemnly, though his expression was grave. "I understand, but this is bigger than both of us. Whoever created this creature could pose a danger, not just to it, but to us, too." As the days passed, the hatchling's behavior grew increasingly unpredictable. While mostly playful, there were moments when its instincts took over. One afternoon, Eli found the creature staring intently out the window, its body rigid and feathers puffed up. It let out a low, unsettling growl that sent chills down Eli's spine. "What's going on, little one?" Eli asked gently, placing a hand on its back. The hatchling relaxed, but Eli couldn't shake the feeling that it was sensing something he couldn't. That night, as Eli prepared for bed, he heard rustling outside. Grabbing a flashlight, he stepped onto the porch and scanned the dark fields. At first, he saw nothing but the swaying grass. But then a shadowy figure moved near the edge of his property. "Hey!" Eli called out, his voice slicing through the stillness. The figure froze for a moment before vanishing into the shadows. Eli's heart pounded as he hurried inside, locking the doors and checking on the hatchling, now curled up in its makeshift nest. The following morning, Dr. Caldwell arrived with unsettling news. "I think we have a lead," he said, spreading out his findings. "I cross-referenced the hatchling's DNA with a private database. The technology used to splice its genes isn't publicly available. Whoever did this has serious resources." "Are you saying this isn't just some rogue scientist?" Eli asked, his mind racing. "This is big," Caldwell confirmed. And I think the figure you saw last night was someone searching for the egg, or the creature." The two men quickly set up surveillance around the farm. Meanwhile, the hatchling, now named Talon by Eli for its swift movements, continued to grow at an alarming rate. Its small body had doubled in size within a week, its feathers now gleaming with an iridescent sheen, and its claws sharpening by the day. Despite the rapid changes, Eli and Talon's bond only deepened. The creature followed Eli everywhere, chirping happily whenever he spoke to it. One evening, just as Eli was beginning to feel a sense of normalcy returning, two men in suits arrived at the farmhouse. "Mr. Turner?" one asked, flashing a badge. "We're from the Department of Wildlife and Environmental Affairs. We've received reports of an unusual animal on your property. Mind if we take a look?" Eli's heart dropped. He knew these men weren't who they claimed to be. The polished suits and professional demeanor screamed government agents or worse, private contractors working for whoever had created Talon. "I'm sorry," Eli said, his voice steady. "I don't know what you're talking about. Just chickens and cows here." The men exchanged glances before one of them spoke again. "We'd still like to take a look, for public safety." "You'll need a warrant for that," Eli said firmly. The men hesitated, their polite facade slipping for a moment. "We'll be back," one muttered, turning to leave. As the SUV disappeared down the road, Eli's heart raced. He knew this was only the beginning. Whoever those men were, they weren't going to stop until they found what they were looking for. Eli couldn't wait for their return. His protective instincts flared as he turned to Talon. The creature, now fully grown, looked up at him with sharp, watchful eyes. "They'll be back," Eli murmured, "and next time they won't be asking nicely." Later, as Vanessa assisted Eli in reinforcing the windows following the attack, she revealed more about her past at Jora Labs. "I didn't always agree with their approach," she confessed. "I stayed because I believed I could make a change from within. But when I saw what they were doing to beings like Talon, I knew I couldn't stay anymore." Eli paused, leaning on his hammer. "You're putting a lot on the line by helping us." Vanessa hesitated for a moment. "Because I believe Talon is more than just a test subject. He's proof that humanity can create something extraordinary without destroying it. If we can protect him, maybe we can show the world that there's a better way." Eli's expression softened. "He's family now. I don't care what they want. Talon stays with us." The gravity of their situation weighed heavily on them, but Eli was certain of one thing. Protecting Talon wasn't just about safeguarding a creature. It was about challenging a system that sought to exploit and destroy for profit. Their fight had just begun, but Eli was resolute in seeing it through, no matter the cost. One evening, as the sun set, Vanessa placed a hand on Eli's shoulder. "Talon needs us to stay strong," she said gently. Eli sighed deeply, running his hand through his hair. "I don't know how much longer we can keep them at bay." Vanessa's gaze softened as she met his eyes. "We're not alone. The community is with us, and Talon, he's with us too." Even amidst their challenges, Talon brought moments of pure joy. One afternoon, as the daylight began to wane, Eli watched from the porch as Talon played with a group of children in the field. Their laughter echoed as Talon flapped his wings, sending a cool breeze that stirred the leaves. That scene filled Eli with renewed determination. This was more than just about protecting a creature. It was about preserving hope, wonder, and the bond between humans and nature. "We're going to fight," Eli murmured to himself, "and we're going to win." The tension between the Millers and Jora Labs escalated one moonlit night. Despite their careful planning, Eli, Vanessa, and Caldwell didn't anticipate the lengths Jora Labs would go to capture Talon. As the farm lay quiet under the stars, the faint hum of engines shattered the stillness. A convoy of unmarked trucks emerged, their headlights slicing through the night. Eli and Vanessa, alerted by motion sensors, rushed out of bed. Caldwell, who had been monitoring security cameras, stormed into the living room, his face grim. "They're here!" he hissed, grabbing a flashlight and radio. Vanessa's heart raced. "We have to protect Talon." Eli nodded, his voice calm. "I'll create a diversion. Caldwell, take Talon to the barn. Vanessa, stay with him." The three of them sprang into action, moving with urgency and resolve. Talon, sensing the danger, followed Caldwell into the barn's dark corners, his feathers shimmering faintly in the moonlight, making him an easy target, even in the darkness. Eli positioned himself on the porch, shotgun in hand, ready to stall the agents. The convoy halted, and Kane stepped out of the lead vehicle, surrounded by a group of black-clad agents. "Mr. Miller," Kane called out, his voice smooth but carrying a threatening edge. "Let's not make this more difficult. Hand over the creature, and we'll leave you unharmed." Eli's jaw tightened. "You have no right to be here." Kane's lips twisted into a smirk. "We're safeguarding humanity, Mr. Miller. You're harboring a biological anomaly. It's not safe for anyone." "That's not for you to decide," Eli shot back, standing his ground. Kane motioned for his agents to move forward. "Your determination is admirable, but futile." Inside the barn, Vanessa and Caldwell scrambled to conceal Talon. The creature stayed still, his watchful eyes taking in every move. "It's okay, Talon," Vanessa whispered, gently touching his beak. "We'll keep you safe." Caldwell crouched by a trapdoor in the barn's floor, signaling for Vanessa to help him. "We can hide him here. It's not much, but it'll keep him hidden." They hurried to move Talon into the cramped space just as the barn door creaked open. Flashlights cut through the darkness, and an agent barked, "Search everywhere." Vanessa's breath caught in her throat. She exchanged a glance with Caldwell, who signaled for her to stay quiet. The two of them crouched down, hearts racing as the footsteps grew nearer. Then, as one agent neared the trapdoor, Talon let out a low, guttural trill, freezing the agent in place. Before anyone could react, Talon burst from the shadows, wings spread wide, displaying his power. The agent stumbled back, tripping over a hay bale. The noise alerted more agents, but Talon was ready. With a powerful flap of his wings, he created a whirlwind of dust and hay, throwing the agents off balance. Vanessa seized the opportunity. "We need to move him, now." She and Caldwell quickly guided Talon through a side exit and into the dense woods behind the farm. Back at the house, Eli was running out of time. The agents were closing in, and Kane was still watching calmly from the distance. "You can't protect him forever," Kane called out, his voice cold. "This isn't just about you. It's for the greater good." Eli glared at him. "You don't care about the greater good. You care about power." As Kane gestured for his men to advance, a gust of wind swept across the yard, sending leaves swirling. A quiet stillness fell. Eli turned just in time to see Talon emerge from the woods, his wings glowing faintly under the moonlight. Talon let out a sharp cry that echoed across the property, capturing everyone's attention. The agents hesitated, unsure how to react to the massive bird standing defiantly in the night. Kane's calm expression faltered. "What is this?" he demanded. Talon took a step forward, locking eyes with Kane. The agents raised their weapons, but Talon didn't flinch. With a mighty flap of his wings, he sent a gust so strong it knocked several agents off their feet. Eli seized the moment. "You see? He's not a threat unless you make him one." Kane's face contorted with frustration. "This isn't over, Miller," he growled, signaling his agents to retreat. The convoy began to pull back, the sound of their engines fading into the distance. Talon remained grounded until the last vehicle disappeared. As the dust settled, Vanessa and Caldwell emerged from the woods, Talon in tow. Eli rushed to them, his relief evident. "They're gone for now," he said, pulling Vanessa into a tight embrace. Caldwell nodded, though his expression remained somber. "But they'll be back. We need a new plan." Eli turned to look at Talon, who appeared unruffled by the chaos. "We'll protect him," he said firmly, "no matter what." Exhausted but determined, the group made their way back to the farmhouse. The battle wasn't over, but they had won this round. Talon had shown them that he was more than just a creature to be controlled. He was family, and they would fight for him with everything they had. That night, after the raid, the air in the farmhouse felt heavy. Eli, Vanessa, and Caldwell sat together in the dimly lit living room. Talon rested outside the farmhouse, his immense form blending into the barn's shadows. Despite their victory, they knew that Jora Labs wouldn't stop. "We can't just wait for them to strike again," Vanessa said, her voice steady. "We need to take action." Eli nodded. "But how?" "They have resources and connections. We're just a family trying to protect a creature." Caldwell leaned forward, placing a laptop on the table. "Not just any creature," he said, pulling up satellite images. "If Talon's abilities are as special as we believe, we need to use them to our advantage. He's more than just an animal. He's a symbol of resilience." Vanessa raised an eyebrow. "What are you suggesting?" Caldwell switched to another file, revealing a map of Jora Labs' headquarters. "We expose them. If the public knows what they're doing, experimenting on creatures, breaking ethical codes, they'll lose their grip." "But how do we do that?" Eli asked. "They've covered their tracks." Caldwell smiled. "That's where Talon comes in." He explained a daring plan. The team would capture footage of Talon demonstrating his remarkable abilities and pair it with documents Caldwell had found about Jora Labs' illegal activities. The evidence would be enough to spark public outrage and force investigations. Vanessa hesitated. Putting Talon in the spotlight could make him a bigger target. "It's a risk," Caldwell agreed, "but it's the only way to ensure his safety in the long run." Eli took Vanessa's hand. "We've come this far. If this is the only way to stop them, we have to do it." Vanessa looked out the window, where Talon stood tall against the moonlight, as though understanding their decision. After a long pause, she nodded. "Let's do it." The next morning, they set up cameras behind the farmhouse. Eli worked with Talon, encouraging him to perform some of the incredible feats they'd witnessed over the past weeks. Talon, sensing the gravity of the moment, spread his wings, creating gusts of wind that stirred the trees. Vanessa filmed every second, capturing Talon's agility, intelligence, and raw power. At one point, Talon lifted a massive boulder with his talons, raising it effortlessly before gently placing it back down with precision. The footage was stunning, showcasing Talon's extraordinary abilities. As Caldwell worked overnight to edit the video and pair it with incriminating documents, the Millers stood guard, aware that the lab's agents might strike at any moment. Finally, Caldwell uploaded the video to a secure server and prepared it for release. "Once this goes live, there's no going back," he warned. Eli placed a hand on Caldwell's shoulder. "Do it." Caldwell hit the button, sending the video to news outlets, social media, and animal rights organizations worldwide. Within hours, hashtags like #SaveTalon and #ExposeJora began trending. News stations aired the footage showing Talon's breathtaking abilities alongside the damning evidence against Jora Labs. Protests erupted outside the lab's headquarters, and calls for investigations flooded government offices, but their relief was short-lived. As they watched the news, the unmistakable sound of helicopters filled the air, and drones buzzed overhead, scanning the fields. "They're here," Vanessa whispered, fear creeping into her voice. Eli grabbed his shotgun, knowing it wouldn't be enough. "Get Talon out of here." Caldwell pointed toward the woods. "There's a cave system nearby. It's the safest place." Vanessa and Caldwell hurried toward Talon, who seemed uneasy but followed them into the woods. Eli stayed behind, prepared to confront the approaching agents. Kane emerged from one of the helicopters, flanked by heavily armed men. "Did you think you could outsmart us, Miller?" he sneered. Eli stood tall. "The world knows the truth. It's over." Kane smiled cruelly. "The world might know, but you've made Talon too valuable. We'll find him, no matter where you hide." Eli leveled his shotgun at the ground, his finger close to the trigger. "Not if I stop you first." Before Kane could respond, a piercing cry echoed from above. Talon had returned, soaring through the night sky with his immense wings slicing through the air. He swooped down, scattering agents and forcing Kane to retreat into the safety of his helicopter. Talon landed beside Eli, his presence commanding the agents to hesitate. Together, man and creature stood as an unbreakable team against the odds. Disorganized and outmatched, the agents began to pull back. "This isn't over, Miller," Kane's voice crackled over the loudspeaker. "You'll regret this." As the helicopters disappeared into the night, Eli turned to Talon, placing a hand on his beak. "You saved us, buddy." Vanessa and Caldwell emerged from the woods, their faces a mixture of relief and disbelief. "What now?" Vanessa asked. Eli looked at Talon, who stood proud and unwavering. "We keep fighting. Together." The air around the farm still felt tense, even as the last helicopter disappeared. Talon stood tall, his wings slightly spread, ready to take flight at any moment. The Millers gathered in the barn, knowing their victory was temporary. Jora Labs would return. The question was, where would they go next? "We can't stay here," Vanessa said, her voice resolute but tinged with sadness. "They'll come back, and next time, they won't hesitate to destroy everything." Eli nodded. "You're right, but where can we go? Talon isn't exactly easy to hide." Caldwell leaned against the barn door, his mind working. "We need somewhere remote, somewhere they won't find us. There's a wildlife reserve upstate. A colleague of mine owns it. He's a conservationist, and he'll understand Talon's significance." Vanessa looked at Talon, her heart heavy. "It's his best chance. But how do we get him there without drawing attention?" Caldwell smiled faintly. "Leave that to me." For the next few days, Caldwell worked tirelessly to arrange their escape. Using his connections, he secured a reinforced trailer for transporting large animals. Meanwhile, Eli and Vanessa prepared the farm for their departure, erasing any trace of Talon's presence. The night of their planned escape arrived. The family gathered around Talon one last time in the barn. Vanessa knelt beside him, stroking his feathers. "You've been more than a miracle to us," she whispered. "You've been family." Eli placed a hand on her shoulder. "We'll make sure you're safe, no matter what." Talon let out a soft cry, nuzzling against Vanessa as if he understood. The bond they shared was unbreakable, and leaving the farm behind brought bittersweet sorrow. As dawn broke, Caldwell drove the trailer onto the main road, with Eli and Vanessa following closely behind in their truck. The journey to the wildlife reserve was filled with tension, every passing vehicle and helicopter a potential threat. At one point, a black SUV appeared in their rearview mirror, matching their speed. Eli's heart raced. "It's them," he murmured. Vanessa reached for her phone, ready to alert Caldwell. Before they could react, Talon let out a loud cry from the trailer. The sound startled the SUV driver, who swerved off the road and into a ditch. The Millers exchanged a glance, their resolve strengthening. Talon wasn't just a passenger, he was their protector. After hours of driving through winding roads and thick forests, they finally reached the wildlife reserve. Caldwell's colleague, Dr. Eleanor Bryce, greeted them at the gate. She was an experienced conservationist, and her eyes widened when she saw Talon. "He's magnificent," she whispered. Eleanor led them to a secluded section of the reserve, an expansive area with thick foliage, open fields, and a freshwater stream. "This will be his sanctuary," she said. "He'll be safe here, away from the world." When they released Talon from the trailer, he spread his wings and let out a triumphant cry. He took a few cautious steps, then soared into the air. Watching him fly above the trees brought tears to Vanessa's eyes. In the following days, the Millers and Caldwell worked with Eleanor to ensure Talon's smooth transition. They monitored his behavior, provided him food, and gradually allowed him to adapt to his new home. One evening, as they watched Talon perched on a rocky outcrop, Eleanor turned to Eli. "You've done something extraordinary here, not just for Talon, but for conservation everywhere. His story will inspire so many." Eli nodded, pride swelling within him. "It wasn't easy, but it was worth it." Vanessa added, "He's more than just a rare creature. He's a symbol of resilience. He's shown us what it truly means to fight for what matters." Though peace had found them at the reserve, the Millers knew Jora Labs wouldn't quit. Caldwell continued to expose their secrets, gathering more evidence and rallying support from conservationists and journalists. The Millers focused on rebuilding their lives. They stayed close to the reserve, visiting Talon often to ensure his safety. Each visit reminded them of their incredible journey and the strength they had found within themselves. As months passed, Talon flourished in his new home. His majestic presence attracted other wildlife, revitalizing the area. Eleanor documented his progress, providing invaluable insights into the care and protection of endangered species. For the Millers, Talon's story was a testament to hope and perseverance. Together, they had faced overwhelming odds, but had forged a new future for the creature who had forever changed their lives. One evening, as the Millers stood at the edge of the reserve, the setting sun casting a golden glow over the forest, Talon soared across the horizon. His wings cut through the air with effortless grace. It was a sight they had grown used to, but one that still filled them with awe, a living testament to their love and determination. "He's more than just a creature," Eli said, his voice thick with emotion. "He's a reminder of what it means to hold on, even when the odds are stacked against you." Vanessa wiped away a tear. "Talon taught us to fight for what we believe in, no matter how impossible it seems. He's as much a part of our family as we are."